In the wake of relentless betrayals and deeply buried secrets, the latest episode of General Hospital, which aired on July 25, 2025, has reset the emotional landscape of Port Charles and left viewers reeling. What was supposed to be a moment of celebration, Willow's long-anticipated wedding, has now detonated into one of the most gut-wrenching exposés the town has seen in recent memory. What began with love and trust ended with silent devastation and cold, calculated exits. In the aftermath, no relationship is safe, no loyalty unquestioned, and no truth left untouched by bitterness. Drew, Nina, Carly, and even Sunny now find their worlds ruptured, but it is Willow who has emerged as the devastating eye of the storm, calm on the surface, but carrying the force of a hurricane beneath. Until just days before the wedding, Willow had been holding on to the belief that she had finally outrun the pain of her past. With Drew by her side and Nina seemingly committed to mending their broken relationship, the pieces of her shattered life had started to resemble something whole again. But that illusion was violently shattered when Curtis, unshaken in his own commitment to honesty, revealed the one truth Willow was never meant to hear: her own mother had betrayed her in the most intimate way imaginable. Drew and Nina, her partner and her newly reintroduced biological mother, had once slept together. And worse, they had done so while Willow and Drew were still a couple. The emotional whiplash was instant. Grief didn't even have time to set in. All that filled Willow's chest was a sense of haunting betrayal, as if her trust had been butchered by the two people she'd finally allowed into her heart. When Nina arrived to help Willow prepare for the wedding, she found not a grateful daughter but a woman on the edge of collapse, standing in bridal silk but carved hollow by deception. Confronted directly, Nina tried at first to sidestep the accusation, but Willow pressed harder, demanding answers. The truth burst forth like a wound tearing open. Nina, breaking under the pressure of the moment, admitted the affair. But in her confession, she may have expected an opportunity for forgiveness, or at least understanding. Instead, she was met with fury. Willow saw in Nina's silence not shame, but cowardice. Her mother had once again chosen secrecy over truth, self-preservation over honesty. And Drew? His betrayal hit deeper. It wasn't just about the affair, it was about months of smiling lies, of promises spoken with rotting intent. For the first time since they began their relationship, Willow no longer looked at Drew as her safe place. She looked at him and saw duplicity. She saw someone who had deceived her with the ease of a practiced liar. Her heartbreak quickly crystallized into clarity. She didn't want any part of this farce. When Nina tried to stop her, offering a dozen apologies in rushed desperation, Willow did not offer comfort. She offered condemnation. And then she vanished. What no one expected, least of all Drew, was that Willow would still appear at the ceremony. The music began. Scout walked slowly down the aisle, a flower girl blissfully unaware of the emotional carnage unfolding behind the scenes. And then Willow emerged. She stood in her gown, breathtakingly composed, looking directly at Drew, who believed, wrongly, that he had been forgiven. She smiled. The smile was cruel in its peace. It was the smile of a woman who had decided to reclaim control in the most public way possible. She walked down the aisle not to stand beside him, but to sever the thread once and for all. In one unforgettable gesture, she raised her bouquet, waved with theatrical finality, and turned away. The church gasped. Drew, pale and confused, stood frozen. Willow walked outside, her gown trailing behind her like the last trace of a ghost, and slipped into a waiting car. The doors shut, the engine roared to life, and she was gone, leaving behind a groom with no bride, a mother with no redemption, and a town left speechless by the surgical precision of her exit. But the emotional carnage wasn't limited to the church steps. Elsewhere, the tangled feud between Sunny and Lucas threatened to ignite another war altogether. Lucas, still fuming over Sunny's violent abduction of Marco, confronted Carly, expecting her support. But Carly, as always, proved impenetrable when it came to Sunny. No matter how many lines he crosses, no matter how deeply he cuts, she seems tethered to him by some invisible, indestructible force. Carly defended Sunny with unshakable certainty, insisting that he would always be a part of her life, no matter how many fires he lit or bridges he burned. That declaration sent shockwaves through her already fragile relationship with Brennan, a man who has presented himself as a stabilizing force in Carly's life, but who now stands on the verge of being unmasked. Unknown to Carly, Brennan has been operating behind a veil of secrets, one of which is unforgivable. He recruited Jocelyn, Carly's daughter, into the WSB under false pretenses. The full implications of that betrayal haven't yet surfaced, but they are simmering. Once Carly learns the truth, her rage may be nuclear. It won't simply be about Brennan's lies, it'll be about the danger he introduced into her child's life, all while pretending to be the anchor she needed. With Natalia out of the picture, Sunny stands alone. The chaos of Willow's wedding, the unraveling of Drew's integrity, and the slow combustion of Carly's romance all appear to be creating a vacuum. One that might draw Carly and Sunny back together. Their love story has always been one of destruction and rebirth, ending in explosions and beginning again in the rubble. Now, as they both teeter on the edge of personal collapses, the gravitational pull between them grows stronger. Yet if Carly does return to Sunny, it won't be a return built on nostalgia. It will be a reunion forged in vengeance, war, and trauma. Both of them are changing. Carly is shedding her illusions, realizing that safety and love are not always the same thing. Sunny, stripped of Natalia and still haunted by the choices that cost him his empire, is becoming darker, more ruthless, less interested in redemption and more obsessed with reclaiming power. Together, they could become the most dangerous force Port Charles has seen in years, no longer victims of love, but wielders of it as a weapon. Back at the Quartermain estate, Drew is left to pick up the pieces of a shattered illusion. The man who thought he had finally secured a future grounded in love now finds himself exposed as the architect of his own undoing. He may have survived countless battles, but this time, he was defeated by the simplest weapon of all, truth. And Nina, whose hopes for reconciliation with Willow have now turned to ash, must face a brutal reality. Her last chance at being a mother in any real sense may have just slipped through her fingers. In the silence that follows, General Hospital doesn't just move forward, it ruptures. The wedding was meant to be an ending, a conclusion to a saga of grief and redemption. Instead, it became a prologue to chaos. As Willow disappears into the distance, her absence becomes more powerful than her presence ever was. Her silence speaks volumes, and it is that silence that now holds Drew, Nina, Carly, Sunny, and even Port Charles itself in its grip. Where she went, no one knows. What she plans next, no one can predict. But one thing is certain, the woman who walked away from that church was not the same one who walked in. And General Hospital, like its people, will never be the same again.